All right, now I will present my screen. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is our Arizona Biomedical Research Center Research Grant Awardee Training. And this is for the 2022 ABRC awardee cohort. Instead of calling it 2023, we started the process in 2022, so that's why we name it according to the year we start the process. And I am John Garcia, the program director for the Arizona Biomedical Research Center. So just a little bit about the ABRC. We were established in 1984 by statute, and we were established to identify and support innovative biomedical research to improve the health of all Arizonans. Then in 2011, it was originally started as a standalone commission with a board of directors and who made the decisions and managed the commission. But in 2011, the commission was moved under the Department of Health Services. And then in 2017, the commission was dissolved and the name was changed to the Arizona Biomedical Research Center. And of course, we had to be a little fancy and use the RE instead of the ER in center, just to give us a little touch of class. Our mission is to identify and support innovative biomedical research to improve the health of all Arizonans. We get funding from two different sources. The Disease Control Research Fund was established under statute ARS 36274, and we get monies received from the Arizona Lottery for that. And the Health Research Fund came under ARS 36275, and those monies come from tobacco tax. A couple of things happened the last couple of years. The legislature passed a couple of bills. One of them was House Bill 2298, which was for marijuana testing clinical trials, and that authorized up to $5 million per year for 5 years from the Medical Marijuana Fund. And that was to test the safety and efficiency or efficacy of marijuana and research impacts of different interactions. And that has been awarded. So apparently there is another bill in the legislature currently that's going to extend this program for another 5 years of new grants up to $10 million per year. But we'll see if the legislature passes that and the governor signs off on it. Then there was Senate Bill 1847, which authorized $250,000 for general marijuana research. And that also came from the Medical Marijuana Fund. And that was to determine any correlation between marijuana use and mental illness, including violent behavior and psychosis. And we awarded 2 grants out of this, one to ASU and one to NAU. And so we look forward to the results of their research. Okay, if you're not familiar with our website, we have the Arizona Biomedical Research Center website is at azdhs.gov/biomedical, and it has our basic programs in there, and we're going to just run through those real fast so you're just familiar with it. We have a little bit about the ABRC. We have information about research grants, research education, the cord blood program, and the biospecimen locator. And that's basically a link to the locator program that is being managed by Valleywise Health and St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix. We used to fund the biospecimen locator program, but once we got it up and running, the website was all paid for and everything. We were able to turn that over and allow the institutions to operate the program for us. We have events, and that's a good place to check periodically, because I'll post different events coming up. We have several research education events coming up. We have the Arizona Public Cord Blood Program. We have the conference is coming up on April 13th. We have the ABRC Flynn Research Conference also in April. I believe it's the 28th, and that's at Phoenix U of A College of Medicine. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Our annual report, this is the cover for the 2021-2022 annual report. We publish that every year. We have to have it posted by January 15th and distributed to the governor and Speaker of the House and the Senate. And so this year's got posted in time, and basically it tells a little bit about what we did during the year. Again, we have our mission to accelerate biomedical research, education, and innovation to benefit Arizonans. And our staff consists of our executive director, Dr. Victor Waddell, myself as the program director, and joining us this week, brand new, is our deputy director, Keelan McCool. And Keelan is actually going to be taking over a lot of the leadership in the research grant arena in the future. So we'll introduce her later on. Our program coordinator is Teresa Napoleon. She is with us today, and she is the person that you will send your program progress reports and your contractor expenditure reports. Sorry, had a little brain mishap there. And our finance manager is Laura Sancerna, and our senior business support officer is Vanessa Barnesacilo. We have 3 core programs. The Arizona Public Cord Blood Program, which is designed to enlist the donation of cord blood units from the umbilical cord and placenta of newborn babies with the consent of the mother. And currently we have several thousand cord blood units that are in storage, either at the University of Colorado Klimanun program or at MD Anderson. And MD Anderson is our new cord blood bank partner, and they're out of Houston, Texas, with the University of Texas there. And so we changed cord blood banks last year, but we still have many cord blood units with the University of Colorado. So I may talk about either one of them interchangeably. And then we have our research education program. And basically, what we do there is we fund education programs for the universities that help bring in um, uh, the latest and greatest in speakers for a variety of biomedical and scientific topics that are of interest to um, researchers, physicians, and other biomedical practitioners. And so every year we fund many programs by each university. Right now, ASU, U of A, and NAU. And the U of A is broken up between Phoenix and Tucson. So they actually, we have 4 different sets of programs. But what I try to do is make sure that everybody knows about all the programs. So if you're interested in uh, more educational opportunities, keep an eye out on our events page, and we'll be posting those as they come up. And then, of course, we have the research grant program, which is what you're here for, because you have been awarded grants for the next 3 years. And we try in the research grant program to award grants to one cohort at least every year, trying to get on a cycle where we actually would have awards maybe twice a year. We've got to do some catch up because of COVID. COVID, of course, had a dramatic effect on research, and I'm sure a lot of you know about that. Literally laboratories were closed down. The schools were almost closed down. So, it was very difficult for a lot of research to get done. And so we are trying to do some catch up with that because we lost almost 3 years worth of research grants. You can't read any of this. I'm sure it's far too small for you, but it's just a look at our financial summary for last year, just to give you an idea of where our money comes from and where it goes to. I'll just kind of read some of this off to you. In 2022, we received $15.8 million. 2.7 went into the Disease Control Research Fund. That was the lottery revenue. And 7.4 million went into the Health Research Fund, the tobacco tax. And then we had 5.6 million come to us through the Appropriated General Fund and Prescription Drug Rebate Fund. And our expenditures that year totaled 11.5, almost 11.6 million. We spent 2.2 out of disease control research, 3.7, almost 3.8 out of the Health Research Fund. The Alzheimer's Consortium has a separate appropriation in statute, and they received 3.625, and then translational genomics, or TGen as everybody calls it, received $2 million from the Health Services General Fund, and we manage those grants as well. So if you look at our little pie chart there, research grants comprised about 3.5 million, Alzheimer's the 3.6, TGen 2, the cord blood program about 590,000, HIV research was 932,000, research education comprised 447,000, and then we had 483,000 for operating costs, for the total of 11.597. This is just a little kind of a gee whiz slide that I'd like to put in, but just so you know that we have had a tangible impact in Arizona, and we received all sorts of, praise and good comments and stuff. And these are just some of the comments that we received. Now, I'm not gonna read them to you. It's just that we've had things. One of my favorites is, this research would not have been possible without funding from ABRC. We are on course to generate sufficient data to make significant impact on novel targeted therapeutics. And that really sums up what ABRC is all about. We want to provide you researchers with an opportunity to um, test your theories, uh, test your hypothesis. If you're in the new investigator award category, you're going to be gathering a lot of data, that you can use and leverage for CDC, NIH, DoD, federal grants that are going to allow you to further test out your theories, and possibly even translate your research into some solid therapeutics in the future. And that's what we're all about. And those of you who receive the investigator grant awards, um, you know, this is a little bit more money because you're more seasoned investigators, and we're hoping that you're going to be able to use that in a manner that might lead to future translation of your work. So, you know, uh, I'm very happy with the successes that we have had in the past, and many, if not a lot of, most of our researchers have gone on to turn their research into R01 and O1, all the other levels of grant funding from NIH and CDC, and they've been very successful. Some of them have come back, and we've learned, that uh, they have a new therapeutic that's on the market. I think that's what it's all about for all that are involved in biomedical research. This is one of the success stories I like to kind of highlight. Ben Rehnquist, doctor with the U of A in Tucson, he's been doing a lot of research over the years regarding diabetes, and he has really got into some interesting areas with his eliminating the GABA T expression. And so, he was prominently, his work was prominently um, uh, acclaimed in the Tucson area, and he was actually in line to receive one of our awards this year, but he turned it down because his project was thoroughly funded by Department of Defense, um, and that's what it's all about. So we're missing him this time around, but we know that he is someone who's going to probably go far in the research arena and in translating his research into hopefully some uh, novel therapies that are going to um, uh, save a lot of lives and help people with diabetes control their diabetes and live longer and healthier lives. So one of the things that I ask is that, if you come up with something and you get mentioned in the news, or you publish your papers and stuff, make sure that we know, either through the program progress reports, or drop me an email and say, hey, look what happened. We'd like to know. Uh, so that we can also, share in your success and brag about you, because that's what we like to do. There we go. So as we talked about, we have 3 programs: the Public Cord Blood Program, Research Grants, and Research Education. Uh, I told you that research education is broken up between ASU, U of A, Tucson and Phoenix, and NAU. These are just contacts. If you ever want to know about what's going on with some of the research education programs, Faye Farmer at ASU, Steve Palmer at NAU, Dr. Schroff at U of A Tucson, and Bernie Sadauskas at Arizona U of A Phoenix. So those are all good contacts. And if you want their contact, please drop me a line and I'll be sure to get that to you. On the cord blood program, we have, we have 4 hospitals that we fund donation efforts at. We're hoping to expand them. We should have another hospital on board very soon. Tucson Medical Center, Dignity Health has St. Joseph's and Chandler Regional Hospital, and then Valleywise Health, which used to be the Maricopa Integrated Healthcare System. They're on board with us as well, and they do a great job. And what we do there is we have in each of the hospitals, we're paying for what we call consenters or cord blood technicians. And these people will work with the mothers that come in for delivery and tell them about the cord blood program and see if they would like to donate their baby's cord blood to the program. They then attend the delivery, and once the cord blood is cut and clamped, then they will take the cord blood out of it and put it into a standard blood bag, and they store it and process it and ship it out the door to our cord blood bank. They have 48 hours to get it to Houston so that it remains viable. And then at the cord blood bank, they test it and process it. And if it's a viable donation, then they store it, and then they send the information to Be the Match or the National Donor Marrow Program to be registered and available for anybody who is looking for it for transplant. Since our program's been in effect, we've had 84 of our units selected for transplant. We collect, well, because of COVID, it went down a little bit. It used to be we collected over 1,000 units a year. We're down to about 300, but the number is getting back up again. And since we've added additional consenters, we now have 2 shifts covered. We have a morning shift and an evening shift. That gets us at least, 2/3 of the babies that are delivered. It's not cost effective for us at this time to have someone work the overnight shift, but maybe if enough deliveries occur and we want to try and capture them, then we'll consider funding a 3rd consenter. But right now our funding is kind of static, and so we're just utilizing what we have available. All right, let's talk about your contract a little bit. Your contract's between the state of Arizona and your institution, okay? It's not between the state and you particularly. So we have to get your institution involved whenever we do any kind of changes to your award. So you're going to need their permission. If you're a university, you're going to have a post-awards section within your within the university. They're the people that generally have the signature authority. So any changes would have to, go with their consent. The principal investigator, according to the contract, has to be based in Arizona. Although if you have an outside or out-of-state subcontractor or partner, they can receive up to 50% of your funding. But we like to keep as much of the funding in-state as possible. So your project period, for the most part, is going to run from January 4th, 2023 through January 2nd, 2026. A couple of you were added later because we had some PIs drop out, and we have to go by the date that the contract is approved. So if you look at your contract approval date, that is actually going to be your project period. For instance, there is, I think Dr. Sharma, we just recently issued his purchase order, and his project period starts in March. So so it won't be following the cohort exactly, but it's as close as we could get it the way the contracts work out. You have to submit supporting documentation for your expenses. You'll prepare what we call the contractor expenditure report, and something has to accompany that to show us the details of what you're reporting for your spending. So a spreadsheet summarizing the expenses don't qualify. Now, if it's a pivot table of a larger spreadsheet, and we know that we can get to that detail, then yes, you can do that. But just a plain spreadsheet report doesn't qualify. So we need an accounting ledger or report that's organized by the appropriate reporting categories. In other words, the personnel, the supplies, the indirect. We need to be able to total them up and see that they tie directly to what's on the CER. We reserve the right to audit awardees. You have to already certify that you have audits, either through the state single audit plan or through a separate CPA firm if you're not one of the state agencies. If you want to move money between your lines on your budget, you have to email a request to us, and that'd be at biomedical@azdhs.gov. And Teresa then will work with you to get your changes made for the future. You should already know that no more than 10% can be spent on indirect costs. Now, this is 10% of all your direct costs. So you tally up your direct costs, and then whatever that is, then take 10% of that, and that's what you're allowed. Most of you gave us budgets, and it includes the indirect costs on it already. So you can't, if you were nice and use more money for your direct costs than your indirect, then whatever that total is what you cannot exceed without a budget modification. But regardless, in total, it can't exceed 10%. And then we ask that you do not spend more than 20% for equipment. And that's really capital equipment, not something that would be considered a supply. We want you to spend most of your money, for the researchers that are going to be, conducting the research, and for the supplies that go into your research, if at all possible. And big red letters here, payments will not be authorized until all quarterly progress reports from the PI have been received and approved by ABRC. So what happens is usually you have somebody who does your financial report for you. They send that in on one track, and then you are responsible as the PI to send us your progress report. Once we have both of those documents in our hands, then we process it for payment. So to make sure that your payments are timely and that your institution has the money it expects to get from this grant, we just ask that you please get your progress reports to us by the dates that they're due, so that once we get our CERs, we can quickly reimburse the institution. Okay, regarding quarterly progress reports, we send you the template. Okay, this is going to be based on your budget, and it's going to, we kind of like build this up on a quarterly basis. So I'm sorry, I'm getting things mixed up here. The quarterly progress report, we send you a template for the report. The first page is going to be filled out already, so don't change the first page. But then there's going to be some questions that we want you to answer, and we want you to respond just the way they're written. For example, it's going to ask you to tell us the percentage of the entire project and what's complete. So, you look at your aims and say, okay, I got the first aim done at 50%, got the second aim done at 25%. Third aim is not started yet. So you take the first two, but you have three aims, so you kind of like divide it by three, you figure that out, and that's going to give you your average percentage of the entire project. It's a guesstimate, and as long as we can see that it's really close and it makes sense to us, then it's okay, but this is to help you as well as us track your progress. And then we want you to provide a narrative of your activity. Don't put in there on track. No, please. We want to know the details. We like reading the details about what you're doing, how you're doing it. There's going to be some questions in there about, what problems are you having? And, we want to know about that. And then there's another one. What are you going to do about that? Or what would you like to do to solve the problems? We'd like to know that, so that we have a good, solid understanding of where you are at the end of the quarter, and that helps us, track and make sure that you're making some really good progress. Because if we see that you're not, then we're going to ask you, why not? Because we want to see what can we do to help you succeed, because that's really our goal here, is to help you succeed in your research. Abstracts and photos. Every year, in November, we'd like you to send us an updated abstract and a photo. Now, if you don't think that your photo has changed from one year to the next, well, that's okay. But, I would still like it, if whatever your current photo is, to send it to us. Otherwise, we'll pick something off the internet, and it may not be that favorable. We do the best we can. But again, please send an updated abstract. And the abstract should indicate where you are in the project, if you have results, and what your next direction is. The abstract's going to be published online. We want you to use plain language, no jargon. Keep it short and sweet, about the same length as what you put in your application. The updated abstract and your photo is going to be used in our annual report, and it's going to be used to choose speakers for the annual research conference, which is held usually at the end of April. And that's the ABRC Flynn Research Conference. And this year it's April 28th, I believe. And because right now I'm going through and we're trying to track everybody down to get our abstracts and our photos, and it's a lot of wasted time for me to have to do that. And what we end up doing is using whatever we have on file. And I would think that you'd want everyone to know where you are right now versus where you wanted to go when you started your project. The research conference. Okay, so all awardees are expected to attend the research conference each year, either virtually or in person. We really want you to submit a poster. They have an absolutely wonderful poster display, so that if you're there, you'll have your poster there. You can visit the other posters. You can see what your colleagues are doing. They can see what you're doing. And then a few of the best, or at least the ones that we consider some of the best, we are going to ask to present at the conference. And if the PI can't make it, maybe a knowledgeable team member could attend and bring a poster and be available to answer questions if possible. So this year, since you just started, you won't actually have to provide us with information. Next year, however, we will be asking you to be prepared to present a poster and, of course, your abstract and photo. The subject of carryover and unspent funds comes up a lot. Carryover is automatically calculated by ABRC each year. So we look at what's left over from what you haven't spent of your budget from the prior year. And if you have more than 50% of 1 year's funding unspent, you'll be asked for an updated work plan and budget to explain how you plan to use the funds and make sure that your project is completed in the time remaining. If now your projects are for 3 years, you can ask for an extension in extenuating circumstances on a case-by-case basis after the 3rd year. However, there will be no extensions beyond the 5th year. Legally, we're not able to do that. And we would tell you if you asked that you'll have to submit an application with everybody else and start all over again. Unspent funds will be forfeited. We don't pay in advance, so we pay on a reimbursement basis. So when I say that the carryover is automatically calculated, so let's say you have an NIA grant and you put your budget as 75,000, 75,000, and 75,000. Okay, so you spent 50,000 the first year, and you have 25,000 remaining. So the next year you're going to get 75,000 plus the 25,000 for 100,000. So that's kind of how it accumulates. So we hope though that you're going to spread it out, and unless there's you lose half your research assistants leave because they got better gigs someplace else, or we have another pandemic and it kind of closes down everything, or we've even had situations where someone was having to get a piece of equipment that they needed, and it wasn't available, and it took time, so it kind of like pushes the project out a little bit. Or even in clinical trials, trying to get enough people to sign up for your clinical trials and go through your testing process. Those are the kinds of problems that we've seen in the past. Publications, abstracts, and presentations. Please, we ask you to make sure that you give credit to the Arizona Biomedical Research Center. Make sure you don't say commission, because that was disbanded. ABRC no longer supports patent endeavors. We used to actually require you to turn your patents over to us, but we don't do that. So you contact your technology office or your post-award folks and find out what your process is for discovery, disclosure, and patent requests. So the patent is all yours. Actually, it's probably your institutions unless you have some sort of arrangements with them. But we needed to get out of the patent business. It just didn't make any sense. So equipment. We need you to show justification, amounts, and receipts when you're requesting reimbursement on a CER, especially for purchases over $5,000. It needs to be tracked as an asset for your organization, and we need to track it as an asset until the end of your grant, when it gets turned over to you permanently as your piece of equipment. The investigators organization holds title to the equipment, and that way it's nice and clean, because we don't want your used laptops and PCs back. Institutional review boards. We need you to submit approval, your IRB approval, to us before the start of your project, if it isn't already somehow included in your application. So please keep that in mind. Just send it to the biomedical at azdhs.gov, and we'll put it on file. Okay, I talked about the CERs, contractor expenditure reports. This is what the form looks like. This is what you'll receive. So Teresa will send out the template at the usually ahead of the end of the quarter. For instance, it's going to be due in April, so she's sending out the CER templates for that next reporting period. And we fill out the approved initial budget and any amended budgets. Let's see here. So please don't use the old CER forms because that's going to mess us up as we try to calculate the year-to-date expenditures. And we want to know what your current reporting period expenditures are, and any prior report year-to-date expenditures. We should be able to put that in, I believe. Teresa, am I correct on that? That you put in the prior period expenditures? Okay, Teresa must have stepped away. So we'll get answers to that before we send you out the first ones. In fact, the people that got one in January will be receiving a template to report in April. And if you have nothing to report, we still need you to fill one out. We have to have one for every quarter. Don't change the pre-filled columns. Oh, A, B, and C. That, if I just read a little further, I would have seen that. So those are the ones that we fill in, and then you fill in the current reporting period expenditures, and then we'll be able to calculate the year-to-date expenditures from there. Oh, you actually have to do the D and E. Okay, so you put your information for the current period, and then you can put in your formula there if you want to, or you can just add prior plus current equals current year to date. Clear as mud, right? And then down here in the lower right-hand corner is the certification. There's where your finance person will sign and accept responsibility for this report. Comes to us, we look at your supporting material, make sure it matches or adds up to what you have in the current reporting period expenditure column. And if it all matches, then and we have your program performance report down here where it says ADHS use only, I'll get to click off this performance satisfactory for payment, and then I sign it and we send it off for payment, and hopefully within 30 days your institution will receive payment. All right, contractor expenditure reports. If you see an error, email biomedical@azdhs.gov with your concern. Please double check all the figures. Incorrect CERs are going to be returned, and it's going to delay payment. They have to be signed by an authorized individual and emailed to biomedical@azdhs.gov, and they're due 30 days after the end of the quarter, except for December, because we know you guys are all on winter break. So we give you till February 28th to get your reports in. And then one more time, payments will not be processed until the quarterly progress report has been submitted and reviewed by ABRC. Can't tell you how many times we're chasing down PIs trying to get progress reports. Don't be one of those. Please send them in on time. I really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to have another RFGA coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. If you know of other people who are interested in applying, they can certainly apply when the notice goes out. And we ask you if you would consider being a future ABRC reviewer. We're always looking for peer reviewers for our grants because a lot of folks, tend to retire, or are no longer conducting research, or for some reason drop off or not available because they're in the middle of writing a big grant application themselves. So anyways, you'll find that on the website, Grant Reviewers. Click on that and put in your email address, and I'll every once in a while I'll get a list of those and I send off thank you. We'll let you know when the next time we need you. And then based on your specialty, we'll try to link you up with appropriate grant applications. We try not to allow competing institutions to review each other's grants, but sometimes we can't avoid it. So we just really ask people to be as honest as possible, and if there's a conflict, let us know. If you still believe that you can be objective, let us know that, and then we'll make a decision on whether or not to use you. But we, it's like U of A, ASU. No, we may let a U of A review an NAU or an NAU review ASU. But a lot of the time we'll find an out-of-state reviewer to review an in-state grant as much as possible. I do try to put at least one in-state grant in grant reviewer for every application. So we got that. Site visits. At least once during your your project period. I'm going to try to come out for an informal site visit. And we'd like to look at your current research, what your upcoming events are, or your milestones, talk about funding opportunities for the future, maybe tour your lab and facilities. And there's no grade for it, you know, but it's nice for us to know what you're doing. And then that way, when the auditors ask us if we've done it, I can tell them that we did. So that's how that will work. Video interviews. So this is something new that we're trying to do, is we want to be able to set up some sort of a video interview in order for us to highlight our ABRC funded research. You know, we are at the behest, we work at the behest of the legislature. And we like to eventually show them, you know, the good that we're doing and the impact that we're making. And a better way, what a better way to do it than if we had some a little short video interview. So if you want to participate, send me an email, and you know, we might be able to post this to our ABRC website as a marketing tool. If you do indicate interest, then we'll make arrangements to send a crew out to record your message, or a little tour, talk about your research and what you're trying to do. You know, whatever you're able to do and not violate any kind of your confidentiality and, you know, HIPAA, and also your knowledge. Sorry, it's been a long morning so far. So I think we're just about done. Okay, I told you that amendments or changes must be approved by the program first. So you submit your request to biomedical, azdhs.gov. Our phone number is 364-0157, area code 602. I've got all our email addresses here. Basically, if you put our first name dot last name at azdhs.gov, you'll be able to send us an email. But really, all you have to remember is biomedical at azdhs.gov. Teresa monitors this email box on a daily basis, and she forwards to us any questions or concerns that that we need to address. Our procurement officer is Kaylee Gray. Your contracts have Delilah's information. You can contact her as well. But we're transitioning from Delilah as our procurement officer to Kaylee, and so you may or may not hear from her in the future. But if we have amendments, it'll probably be from her. That's it. We're down to questions. So if you have any questions, you can open up your mics and ask away, and I'll try to answer them. I always like crickets. I guess that means that I did a good job. Yes? No? Maybe so? Mary, did you have
Hello,
a question?
yeah. I had a quick question. Our current budget when we submitted the NIA award was for a rabbit study that we had intended to do at ASU. However, upon further conversation with ASU, they will not be able to host the number of animals needed for the study. So we're currently exploring alternative CROs that will be able to handle the rabbit study. So my two questions were, first, if we have explored options in the state and find that we need to go out of state for a contract research organization to host the number of animals needed for a study, would that be an allowed exemption to the 50% rule for out-of-state subcontractors?
No, we'd have to still keep it at 50%. Yeah, it's just that's a hard and fast rule with us. So if you're not able to um, get out of state support for that for under 50%, then we might have to look at other options. But we can have a conversation about this. If you want to, I have your contact information, um, and I could give you a call and we can talk about it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, or you can just call me yourself. It just whichever you prefer, and we'll discuss that because that's something that hasn't come up before. Um, but we can put our heads together and we might be able to come up with a, a solution.
All right, and my second question was regarding the SOW and the project scope that we had originally submitted. Since we had submitted this last February, since then we have done some more research, and the focus, some finer details of the research project have shifted, namely in the type of groups that we're going to be testing and um, the information that we're looking to get from the project. So we hope to make some revisions to the overall project. What would be the best way to submit a revised scope of work? Would that be something that I do on my end and email it to you, or is there a more formal form we have to fill out?
No, I would send that to biomedical. Like a little cover that says, kind of justifies why you need to make the changes, and then what the changes are. And then we'll submit this to our procurement people, and then they will, uh, basically they'll probably just add it onto your existing contract as an amendment.
Okay.
And then, because we'll have to go through your application, and we'll need to, it might be good to like give us a clean copy and give us a red line copy, so to speak, so that we
Okay.
see where in your application you're making the changes.
All right.
If you can do that, then it'd probably be very easy for us to get that amendment done.
Thank you. Those are my only questions.
Okay, great. Anything else from anybody?
Yeah, hi, John. This is Jeremy Green with the Arizona Veterans Research and Education Foundation. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, Jeremy, and congratulations.
Thank you. So recently there's been some policy updates, and since we are an organization that can only do research within the Veterans Affairs organization, is there a way or mechanism, now that we know we're approved for the grant, it's a little hard to negotiate terms until you know you're approved. Can we create an amendment and submit that to you with updated terms and adding the VA as a party?
We can explore it. If it's something that is in that's not part of the scope of work, but would be part of our standard boilerplate, any changes to that would have to go to the Attorney General's office for approval, because they go through and they create that boilerplate, and then they say, don't change this.
Sure.
So I would just say submit it. Let's take a look at it, and we'll get an opinion on what we can do and what we can't do, and we'll let you know.
Okay, great. Who would I submit that to?
AZ Biomedical.
AZ Biomedical?
Yep, at azdhs.gov.
Okay, perfect. All right, thanks, Sean.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Let me see. I'm going to stop presenting, and I'm going to stop recording,